What's up? What's up? Namaste, friends, family, and fans. It's your homie, Stone Stafford, with my other homie.
Johnny Vaughn, what is up, peoples?
I wonder why I never say your name. Why do I always just make you introduce yourself?
I don't know. You could carry that ball sometimes. That make me feel special.
First of all, I will not be carrying anyone's ball. But I digress. You starting so early, bro. Like we
No,
just started.
you did that.
Started.
See, my whip meter's on 0 today, so it's gonna be all you with that stuff.
I don't know. That stuff is involuntary. Both of our wit meter is kind of just like wah wah wah. There's the fact that crap is involuntary is scary. So anyway, man, look, let's jump right into it, man, because we have a lot to cover today.
Yeah.
I'm super stoked and I'm super happy because our listeners have finally responded to a request.
No, you know what happened? They finished watching everything on Netflix and they had nothing else to do, so they got
nothing else to do. But I actually had to put the personal thing out on my personal Instagram. But as soon as I did, I got all the responses. So thank y'all for doing this. As much as we hope it's helpful to you, you're helpful to us because we love the interaction and stuff like that. So we're going to jump right into it. The question that was posed to our listeners is, name one thing you could really use some advice on. Nice and simple, you know? And the fact that we got so many responses, and we had to whittle them down too. So there were several things that were duplicated. Yeah. So, so we whittled them down. We're not going to name names. We're not going to say who asked what questions. Some people didn't care. Some people, they wanted to stay anonymous. And because some of it was duplicated, we're not going to name any names. But there's a little disclaimer. We are not attorneys. We are not accountants.
We're not psychologists.
We're not psychologists, and we're not claiming to be right. But again, this is our advice.
Most importantly, we are definitely not your parents.
We're definitely not your parents. This is advice, normally based off of our own knowledge and experience.
Yeah.
But we're not. But if it's just our opinion, we will do our best to state when it's just our opinion. But for the most part, it's usually going to be based on some kind of fact or experience. So I just want to put that disclaimer out there.
Yeah.
Like I did last time, that we were talking about the spokesperson, this, but I think we're not advising everybody. We can speak to a lawyer. All right. Now, so starting off, so name one thing you could really use some advice on. So one of our first questions was from a young lady. She said, understanding the difference between when you're analyzing yourself for growth and maturity versus overanalyzing yourself, leading to insecurity and self-loathing. When she hit me with that self-loathing, I was like, oof, this is deep. This one's deep.
Yeah.
So why don't you go ahead and kick it off, man, and I'll jump in after.
Well, I don't want to diminish the importance or the gravity of anybody's particular question, but to me, this one was kind of easy. Because I put analyzing anything into two categories. Either you're being subjective or objective. So if you're able to step out of it and you're looking at what you're doing based off of, is this being effective? Yes or no? If the answer is yes, move to the next thing. Is this hindering me in any way? Yes or no? If the answer is yes, okay, then you got some other things to analyze. That's an objective viewpoint on it. Subjectivity when you're analyzing is when you start asking all of those subjective questions. Was what I did good enough? On whose scale? Am I good enough? When you ask those kind of questions, you haven't set your own scale. You're still trying to appease somebody else. So once you can sit and differentiate between being subjective about yourself and being objective about yourself, that's how you can really determine which one you're doing. Because once you start getting into all that subjective stuff, that self-loathing thing, you start hitting yourself with, oh, I didn't do it as good as such and such, or I didn't make it to this point by this time, or everybody said I should be married with 2 kids by 35, and here I am 42, and that's self-loathing. That bear jumps on your back, and it's hard to get out of that, as opposed to being objective and just looking at the fact that time isn't out yet. What have you done? What have you accomplished so far? And where can you pick up to get to the next step?
Man, perfect. I totally agree with you. I was going to say it in probably just one sentence and less, but No, but you expect, but I like the way you did it better. I love the subjective and objective.
I
I think
like how
that's
you be
perfect.
low key calling me long winded without actually saying.
No, I
Appreciate
think it was necessary. I
that.
think it was necessary because I was simply going to say, one viewpoint is constructive
Mhm.
and for improvement. Another one is judgment, where you're judging yourself.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
you said it better, objective. When it's objective, then you're doing it in a way to be constructive and to
Right.
grow and to build. But when it's subjective, everything's you're looking inward and judging yourself,
Hmm.
whether it be for acceptance or you're comparing yourself to others or some other standard. So definitely do it objectively. I agree. In other words, stand outside of yourself and look at yourself and
Hmm.
say, or you know what you could do if you have a hard time doing that is just think of whatever it is you need improvement in. Act like your best friend or someone you truly care about is that person with those issues.
Hmm.
How would you deal with them? And whatever you say to them and treat them, that's how you treat yourself. And that's how you get over the self-loathing part.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
hopefully you find that helpful, but it all starts in the mind at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's just depending on which side you think about it. So again,
Exactly.
objectively, subjectively. Beautiful. Our next one, young lady. I don't think we have any dudes. Oh, we got one guy.
We prideful, bro. We
Yeah,
is
we got
prideful.
one guy. This is horrible.
We is prideful. Nah, man,
Just
men
know that
is prideful
all
people.
these are from females except for one question. So I'll just leave it at that. So the next one, on what they give you some advice on. When do you forgive and add another chance versus when do you let go? That's a good one. I'm gonna jump off on this one first, just because I'm going
Yeah.
to say part of it depends on what you live your life by. So I'm gonna come at y'all with this first, because y'all know me. May not be perfect, but I live my life. As far as a Christ follower, it says forgive your brother 7 times 70. Essentially he's sitting there saying over and over and over again. The way I like to do it is how many times would I want someone to forgive me? That's usually my guideline on how I forgive someone else. Something you need to keep in mind is that forgiveness is actually for you and not for the other person. It's for you to be able to let go so you don't keep that ought and that toxicity and that unforgiveness in you, because believe it or not, it does transform from an emotional to physical havoc in your body. So when you're forgiving someone, first and foremost, it's for you. It is one of the greatest times when you're allowed to be selfish, to think about yourself. Second, on a more practical sense, is when you find that at the point where you were now being abused or you're being taken advantage of, and I'm not even talking about being appreciated because that's emotional, but when you're being abused and taken advantage of, well, again, it's still self-preservation. All right. You don't want to put yourself in a position where you're being abused and taken advantage of. So therefore, that's that point I feel when you let go. And then lastly, you also have to look at how much you're forgiving this person and helping them. Is it hurting them? Is you're giving them a helping hand and doing things for them all the time and giving them another chance, another chance, another chance? Is it causing them to regress? Because you have to remember that the growth is uncomfortable, so your unforgiveness or your forgiveness of them and then yet still not giving them another chance, that's going to be uncomfortable for them. Not giving them another shot is going to force them to face the challenges that they need to overcome and force that growth as well. So if you do get to that point where you're like, you know what, at this point I'm being abused, I'm taking advantage, and then also I see that you're regressing or you're literally not growing in this area, I need to stop and let that go or let you go. It's notice that it's still a loving act,
Yeah.
because you're still thinking of that person. So that's another way to look at it, so that you're not beating yourself up and condemning yourself just because you reach that point where you can't take the abuse anymore.
That's beautiful. I like how you said that, because I was gonna say it in just one sentence, but the way you said it was the best way to say it, because I was just gonna say, I don't know. So
Which may happen.
yeah.
Which I don't know, but I'll find out.
But I will. Let me get back to you on that. Man, that's always a tough one for me, because that's when I try to live my life as detached as possible, because as the Jedi used to say, emotions are the path to the dark side, and I don't want to do that. So, but when in situations like this, like I've got a family member, and you know this story, that has crossed me terribly after trying to help them out of a really bad situation. I held up my end, but they have left me in kind of a bad scenario. but that person is very close to me. So working through forgiving that person because of how close they are to me. I hate to say I'm biased on who I offer that much leeway to, because if we're just friends, you may not get that extra opportunity to be forgiven. Family members, for some reason, because of the emotional connection and just how I view blood, tend to get a lot more leeway with me. So I'm a terrible person to try to answer that question, because everything you said, I know all of that stuff is true, but it always reverts back to how do I feel about that person emotionally, and then it becomes an emotional decision on my end. So it's, right. I think listening to that blueprint and trying to follow that, as difficult as it may be because of your emotional attachment, if we can get to a point where we can do it how you said it, that's the way to go.
Yeah, and I'm just going to close it on this last thing again. Of course, it still goes back to my faith, and that is, when Christ says, forgive others as I've forgiven you. When I look at it like that, and I know that even after this podcast, I'm a screw up in something. I almost see it as deposits in the bank. I'm like, look, I already know I'm gonna need God to forgive me, so let me go on and put some credits in the bank and forgive you, because I'm gonna need that later myself.
You always being selfish, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's karma, it's seed time and harvest, whatever you want to do, but whatever it is that I want, I need to sow that. So even if that's your reason of knowing that, you know what, if I'm gonna need God to forgive me, I'm gonna forgive you. But he also said that don't take his patience, and that he's not mocked, and don't take his patience for granted, because what you sow, you will reap. And if you keep doing stupid stuff, he's going to allow you, guess what, to reap the consequences of that, because that's going to be the only way you finally get it right and grow. So even he eventually is going to be like, you know what, okay, I'm pulling back, I'm letting you go. You're going to deal with that and come back when you're ready.
Not mad at that at all.
You know what I mean? So it still works for you. So hopefully that helped you out. And we're going to go to the next one. You got these in front of you now?
Yeah. No, I got them. This one's, I just went through this like within the last year, dealing with an aging family member and how your role may change in that scenario. Very personal story. I was really close with both of my grandmothers. More so with my maternal grandmother. Like, I used to call her every day. Like, from the time I went to college, we talked every day, unless it was some crazy circumstance where we just missed each other. If she had a doctor's appointment, or if I was in an all-day thing or didn't have my phone. She was my absolute rock. Like, kept my parents from sending me to the boys' home when I was a kid, when I was wilding a little bit. Like, she has saved me from more situations. She was that praying grandmama that people talk about all the time.
I had a praying grandmama.
Yeah. As she started, requiring more, physical assistance and things like that, she said something to me about 15 years ago. She said that, I asked God for 100 years. Now, in my mind, I'm like, okay, people know that, I'm an omnist, so I don't question anyone who you worship. I'm with all of it. But my thing was, she was that person that if she asked God for anything, in my mind, she's the person that should get what she asked for. So given that she was only 91 and she started needing a lot of stuff, my role changed from just my grandmother being my support system to me mentally getting upset with her God for not granting the one request that she asked. And in doing that, I started becoming angry and selfish and not going by as much because I couldn't stand seeing her deteriorate like that. And then, 6 months leading up into it, I kind of snapped out of it and realized that, one, my grandmother is about to experience something that I'm not experiencing. She's going through something that I have not experienced yet. She's aging. She knows that the end is coming, and she is facing that by herself, even though we're all here. The least I can do is be there for her physically, because she's going through a spiritual transition that I can't comprehend right now. So it was you kind of, I went through the whole, what are those stages of it's grief and doubt.
Acceptance.
Acceptance was the last one. And I mean, and that's when I started kind of just being like, this isn't about me. My grandmother needs me there. But I mean, I went through the denial phase. I'm like, this isn't happening. My grandmother asked for 100 years. She's not going to die right now. This can't happen. And needless to say, she ended up passing away. I lost both of my grandmothers within 8 days of each other. So it was like a double whammy. My mom's mom passed away, and then my dad's mom passed away first. So we went to the funeral. I got back to Atlanta and got the phone call the next day that my mom's mom had passed away. So it was a tough period of one reflecting, because it's so much stuff to try to put into one answer. But what I ended up doing was sitting down and asking myself these questions. Did I do everything they needed me to do leading up to their transition? And there were some things that I missed on. But I do feel like I realized soon enough that it wasn't about me and the pain that I was going through, realizing that I was about to face a loss, and it was about the experience that they were going through, and they just needed family to be there to support. So not being, grandmama's baby, not being the prized grandson and all of that stuff, it changed to them needing help, me helping them upstairs, feeding them. And it was an existential experience, because obviously they fed me when I was a baby, when I couldn't do it. So it was that total 180, tables have turned, showing you what my future is going to be. Because I mean, if we all live long enough, we'll all be in that point. So I think the whole thing about dealing with aging family members, it literally is just a life lesson. One, it shows you what they were doing for you when you weren't able to do for yourself. It puts you in a situation to, one, have to deal with your own grief, knowing that something is coming, but ultimately understand that it's not about you. And death is the one of the only assurances that we can sit on, but majority of us are still afraid of it. And being someone's support system through that fear, I think, is bigger than any self-fulfilling anything that you could do. So that'd be my only thing with that, is realize that it's a lesson, that it's a lens for you to be able to look literally through time, from what they did to you, to when you were able to share time together, to now they need you in the way you needed them in the beginning.
Right.
Man,
No,
that was that's what I got.
No, that was great. And sorry for you. I didn't know you lost your grandma's back to back like that. Man.
Yeah.
So sorry about that. Yeah. So my take on it is, I think the key part of her question for me is, and how will my role change? I think a lot of it, first and foremost, is going to depend on what your relationship was with that aging family member in the first place. So if you guys were estranged, then at that point, it just becomes a conscious decision of yours on how involved do you want to be in their life as they age. And it's literally a choice. Either you will be closer or you'll continue to be estranged. But either choice that you make, I think it's important that you commit to it. And if you commit to being in their life, whether it's a stranger or whether it's someone you're close to, if you're going to be there for them in their life, you have to literally accept the fact that it's not going to be convenient. Get that out of there's no way you can help someone with their life and live your own life and it always be convenient. So the sooner you embrace that, and not necessarily look at it as an inconvenience, just know that it's not going to be convenient. And that sounds like I'm contradicting myself, but it is.
No, that's right on.
Yeah, it's just a mental state. So I think the sooner you accept that, and accept that person aging and however you're going to be involved in their life, what your role is, accept that as part of your life. It will make it a whole lot smoother, make that transition a lot smoother, and you'll probably get more out of it. And that matter of fact, it'll probably put you in the heart and the mind state to do what Johnny just said, and to see the lessons that can be learned out of this thing, and to see even where your relationship stands and to draw something from it. So, but just understand that your role will change depending on what your role was in the first place. But if we're going to go with the thing of where you'll be involved in this aging family member's life, just know that it's going to be a new life for you.
Yeah.
And if you can accept that, I think it'll definitely make the transition a lot better and hopefully even more fruitful.
I've got one saying that I always say to myself whenever I'm in something that's difficult, and they use it in movies a lot, usually in very terrifying situations, but it works for me a lot. And it's simple. It's, this is happening. And that's it. Yep. I don't add anything to it. I mentally, and sometimes I say it out loud, like this is happening. I am experiencing that. And you can either pull back and regret not acting in that situation, or you can accept that this is happening and adjust.
Yeah. And that's the thing. As soon as you accept it, the adjustments can come.
Yep.
As a matter of fact, it allows you to be open to more, to be more more, what's the word I'm trying to think of, prolific with your adjustment ideas, with the ideas flowing to adjust. So
Yeah.
hopefully that
I
helped
hope
you out
so.
a little bit there.
Yeah, and I hope my answer, my response to that wasn't too down.
No.
I know I went like all the way to the end of the process, but I mean, it's.
You know what? I think two things happened. One, I think it was helpful. And two, I think you needed to say it.
I appreciate that because I probably did. Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, so the next one said my personal answer: how to find peace in waiting for success. Or basically, be still in knowing that it's coming together, and how to be patient. You want this first? Or you want me to lead off?
Yeah. No, because I got my answer is super easy on this one. I got your one sentence for that.
There you go.
The way to do that is to get over believing that the end result is the reward, and remember that the journey itself is the reward. The success is the byproduct of the journey. Start enjoying the journey.
What do I say? He summed it up nicely. Man, that's it. That's it. You know, the joys in the journey. Absolutely. The growth and everything that you're looking for out of this thing is in the journey. And that's the summary. And maybe I should have gone first because that would have been the beautiful summary of my wording. And one thing I think about, and matter of fact, I literally just posted this the other day. I said that the success that we want today, right? So that success we want, who we are today won't fit. Who we are today is not ready for that success. So there is a role that time has to play. Not that time will play, not that time needs to play. No, there is a role that time has to play, because Stone today, compared to where I want to see Stone in 5 years, Stone today, there's some parts of Stone today that ain't ready for that. And the only thing worse than not being successful is being successful when you're not ready for it.
Yeah.
That, because there's nothing worse than having it and then losing it because you weren't ready for it. So if you just know that, then the only thing you need to have confidence in and is am I doing everything that I could be doing right now?
Yeah.
If you can go to bed at night and know that you're doing everything you could be doing right now, then you shouldn't have to worry about it. Then you know it's not an if but when.
Boom.
And as long as you know it's not an if but when, then just enjoy that journey, just like Johnny said. You know what he said. So and just know too that it's common to every person.
Everybody.
So you're not alone in this thing. Every single person that has succeeded battles with that. I have battled with it. And I can actually say I'm kind of over battling with it. Does it mean I don't want it to come? I wish it was here today. Sure I do. But I don't lose sleep over about it. You know, I don't trip over it because I know it's coming, because I'm doing every single thing I'm supposed to do right now today.
Exactly.
All right. So hopefully that helps you out. Just relax, woosah, do everything you know to do.
Yeah.
Johnny, you want to hit this?
What we got next? What should I be investing my money in? Okay.
Remember that disclaimer in the beginning. All right, go ahead.
Refer to Stone's disclaimer. I am not a financial advisor. Please consult your financial advisor, your personal CPA for any financial choices. What I will do is tell you what I am doing. We are in a very overly precarious time right now. The one thing I think people do with their money, aside from spending it frivolously, is not pay attention to what it's going to be doing 5-10 years from now. Everything that's going on right now is changing how the world is going to function in the next 5-10 years. People's monetary systems are breaking down. We kind of talked about what fiat currencies are in a past episode, but if you don't know what that is, it's a paper note that's designated by the government that says that this is the currency that we're transacting in. Most currencies on the planet are not backed by gold, silver, any precious metals. They're promissory notes or debt notes like the US dollar. The only reason they have value is because we accept the fact that the government said this is what it is and we put value in it. Right. So right now, what I would suggest investing your money in are things that intrinsically hold the value that we absolutely need. The low-hanging fruit would be precious metals: gold, copper, silver, platinum. If you can afford platinum's stupid per ounce right now. I've been on a buying spree of gold and silver for the last couple of months. I always buy a little bit here and there, but I've upped those investments because if fiat currency decides to die, as that currency's value depreciates, those hard assets, their values are going to obviously grow because the value of the fiat currencies, it shrinks up against it. The future is changing. You're seeing right now this whole coin shortage thing. Like, people are not accepting cash because they can't give you, if you don't have exact change, you have to pay with a credit card. I've been calling for there to be a cashless society for about 10 years now. And, my family members kind of laughed at me. My little brother hit me up last week. They saying, bro, I just went to a place they wouldn't take my cash. You might have been right. And I said this to him back in like 2012. So I'm investing in a lot of.
I'm just kidding.
I don't know what that means.
You can watch it later. I'm kidding. I'm joking.
Okay. I got a feeling that's an inside joke I need to catch now, though.
No, when you watch it later, you'll see
watch
what
it
it is.
back.
Because you didn't see it right away, so therefore you didn't know what I was doing.
Okay. But I'm putting a lot of money into digital assets right now. The cryptocurrency craze that went on in 2017 into 2018, I did pretty well for myself in that. And I've been using that to make some other investments. So I've been investing heavily in the crypto space. Just because, and mostly in the DeFi stuff that's changing the financial, just how transactions are done, where institutions are decentralizing where finance is going, or decentralized financial situations. There's this whole thing about quantum financial systems that's going to be run on blockchains. So anything that's related to how the future of the world may look, of course, it's speculative now, but that's where wealth is built. You take those risks on investing in those chances, and then 10, 20 years from now, when the world no longer has paper money and everything is digital, you own some of those currencies before they were, being used on a day-to-day. And then your value is based up against everyone else moving into it later. And then, of course, we're working on some new real estate stuff. You can never go wrong with buying land. Don't buy at the top. Everybody's looking at the housing bubbles right now. The default rates have been going up because obviously people haven't been paying rents. People haven't been paying mortgages. People who got those, who talked to their banks and got those deferments, the deferment didn't make the payment go away. It just meant you don't have to pay for 3 months. But then at the end of that 3 months, you got to pay all of that plus the current thing. So
depending on what you're deferment.
Depending on what it was, but a lot of them were set up that way.
Right.
So I foresee there being a housing crash. People are saying that it's not going to happen. I don't see how it doesn't, because if people default on mortgages, foreclosures happen. These rent moratoriums are going to go away soon, so people are going to be able to be evicted. So eventually those prices are going to crash because there's going to be a flood of inventory into the market. So if you have cash on the sidelines and in the next 6 to 12 months, you're able to buy some land or buy some property, that too. So digital assets, precious metals, land in a few months once the prices drop, once there's a flood to the market. That's what I got. And that was a lot. I'm sorry.
Mine's going to be like, I don't know, because I've only recently grown in my financial literacy. I'm not too proud to say it, but hey, better late than never.
No.
In my education, what I can say is in anything investing, especially if you're new and trying to find places to put your money, always think staples, first of all. Always think staples. Mm-hmm. But I agree with Johnny as far as precious metals, because that's the thing that the financial industry, that's the benchmark, if you will. Mm-hmm. So that's how we know what value is what, you know what I mean? So obviously if that's the bar.
And there's a lot of other commodities too, but you can't go wrong with the precious metals.
Right, can't go wrong with the precious metals. Second, for me personally, is obviously going to be technology, particularly mm-hmm. AI. You have to be pretty much deaf, dumb, and blind to not see that that's where everything is going. And you do want to put your money in something. You want to put it where things are going, not where things are. Mm-hmm. And then lastly, real estate. One of this, people will always need land, always need buildings, always need houses in some way, shape, or form. You just have to find a smart way to do it and sit in it, because it's going to go up and down. Mm-hmm. Something comfortable for me are going to be REITs, real estate investment trusts. Yeah. Those are, it's kind of like a nice little bubble to be in. You're shielded from too hard of a crash, but you also still benefit when things are going well. So those are my three main staples. Now, when you get into stuff like pharmaceuticals, which won't go anywhere, but that's just now you're getting crazy. You know what I mean?
I swing trade that stuff. I never hold pharmaceuticals because you never know if the drug is going to last or if they're going to go away. Those things
I don't swing. Been curious. I've never swung myself.
It's fun. Give it a shot.
Yeah. I don't know about that. I like my life. I like being alive. But so yeah, so really at the end of the day, that's my little 2 cents. But at the end of the day, yeah, what Johnny said.
Yeah, no, that was a dope 2 cents though. That's
Here's a good resource, a great resource I have found
Mhm.
for both the seasoned and the new investor, because you're talking about where to put your money,
Mhm.
is a site called Motley Fool. Right?
Yeah, Motley Fool's good.
L.I.F.E. I like them because they put it in layman's terms, easy to understand.
Mhm.
They give you tons of resources.
Yep.
So if you would even want a place to start, I would start there with them with Motley Fool.
Sure.
All right.
Yeah.
And Motley Fool, you can send us a check.
Right on.
Or at least give a huge shout out to your listeners or followers.
Boom.
All right, next one. She says, maintaining. So one question that I really need some advice on, or could use some advice on, is maintaining boundaries in life and business without missing opportunities. The boundaries are for working with and helping others. So it sounds like to me is a thing of not to spread yourself so thin, working with other people and helping other people, but then not taking away from your personal life. But then while you're focused on your personal life, you don't want to miss any opportunities with working and helping other people. And that is a tricky one. I feel like personally that's going to be super subjective, just for the simple reason of, I know this person right here, she has a newborn. Well, not so newborn anymore, but I think he's like 2 now, maybe 3. So when you got kids involved and you don't have kids involved, 2 totally separate worlds, as Johnny and I both know.
Yes.
So that's going to be a little subjective on how to balance all of that. My best thing is you're constantly going to have to keep taking measurement. All right. So consistently, even if it's weekly, just step back and just see, okay, am I putting enough emphasis here? Am I neglecting this a little bit? Especially where family is concerned, make sure communication is open. Because sometimes you may feel like you're not giving family enough balance, but your family's like, no, we good. I think you need to be focused a little bit more on your business stuff. So communication is going to be key, especially where the family part is concerned, and honesty. But I think it's a constant assessment that you're going to have to take. And then when you see one is lacking, because you can't give 100% to more than one thing. So just understand that. So you just kind of have to that word balance, people think actually is a static state, and it actually is not. Balancing is very fluid. So sometimes you got to
Anybody who's ever had a friend on a seesaw, and y'all tried to stay in that, but you're always adjusting to keep.
So balancing it's a verb. It is a fluid thing. It's something you're constantly doing. So it's going to take work, but obviously it can be done. But you just have to kind of keep reassessing. That would be my advice to you. You have to keep reassessing, especially where your family's concerned. And depending what the business is, if there's a team involved or other people, communication is going to be your best friend. How are you feeling right now? Do you feel I'm gone too much? Do you feel I'm putting too much energy here? How do you guys feel? Do you feel I'm pulling my weight? Do you feel I'm putting all that I need? And you have to just keep making those assessments on a frequent basis. That's my team.
I ain't got nothing else to say to that. That's it.
There it is.
Yeah. And
that's what I do personally. I just happen to live with a person and married to someone who will absolutely let me know if it's unbalanced. So the communication part isn't very difficult. But at the same time, though, they're also kind of like, yo, go out there, do you. I need you to make that million. You know what I'm saying? So I don't really have it too difficult. But the communication is there, though, regardless.
Exactly. Start there. That's the thing. If the communication is lacking, then the balance is off. If you're not comprehending it, then the balance is off. So if you're understanding what's happening, because all of that stuff is a symbiotic relationship. So if they're supporting one another and it's a give and take, and one isn't feeding off of the other and the other one's dying, then you got balance. But if your home life starts to die due to your business, then your business is literally consuming your home life. So that's it.
All right, great. So Johnny, why don't you read this next one? Lord,
you sure? You
sure want
me to read the next one? That's what you want. That's what you want me to do.
I would love you. I'm handing the baton to you. I want to see where you go with this one. This is gonna be fun.
Sex before marriage. Yes, that's it.
There it is. There it is.
Listen, so this obviously this is a controversial question because it's going to be solely based off of what your belief system is.
Boom, that's it.
Marriage, I've always looked at marriage way different than most people. I never really understood why there was a business aspect to it. Well, there is, but in the old days, they had rituals that defined whether you were married, whether it was the jumping of the broom or crossing some threshold or creating the circle with a knot, which evolved into what the wedding band is today. Like, to me, marriage is an agreement between the two people. And if you agree that you're together, because me and my wife, we functioned as a married couple 7 years before we got married. Like, we had 3 bank accounts together. We lived together. She was a part of, my will. She was on my insurance policy, all of this stuff. Like, we had more stuff than some married people I know today. So it's going to be heavily based off of what your views are religiously. I don't subscribe to the religious views of abstaining until marriage. I don't comprehend that. Sex is the number one function of life. It's how we reproduce. And the book that Stone references so much speaks in itself is to have life abundantly. And life can't be had without sex. So I've always subscribed to having it abundant.
I'm just not even going to touch that one.
Go real big on not having an abundance of the life-giving, ritual. So that's my answer on that. Some people
same book also said hates their mother and father, but that's not really what it meant. But no, at the end of the day, you did open it up. It is going to depend on your faith thing. Me, myself, if you living under a rock, or if you're just now listening to the podcast, I consider myself a Christ follower and a follower of the book that Johnny likes to call it.
I love how you never say I am, or you don't say I am a Christ. You say I consider myself. You leave.
Are you sure?
I don't think I've heard you ever say I am. You always say I consider myself, which I think that's just when I put that in the same.
Okay, well let's go on just record right now. I am a Christ follower. So,
and I know that. I'm just saying.
Let's just go on and make that plain. I don't know if I've always said that, but
I'm gonna have to go back and
you know why? You know why? I know why. Because and whatever, and I shouldn't do this, but I do it with sensitivity to the listener or who I'm talking to.
That, yeah.
Because and you know how people think. The moment you say you're a Christian or a Christ follower, immediately they think perfection.
Yeah, they'll check out.
Or they check out, or they immediately think perfection.
Oh,
and at that point, their whole mistake radar comes up. Now they're trying to look for everywhere that you messed up. Yeah. So when I say I consider myself that, meaning I subscribe to that lifestyle, but I also realize I'm not perfect. That's really what that statement means.
Okay.
But by all means, I have no problems with being I am a follower of Christ. And that being said, so I failed in that area grossly. I've invented a few things.
No, really?
But I will say though, before I did get married,
you mean to tell me working in the music industry, you couldn't control yourself?
I couldn't control myself working dog on that Burger King, homie. It's all about a Whopper with cheese. Anyway, we knew we should have saved this one for last. Yeah. Darn you! I almost said her name, but darn you. But with Tasha though, Tasha and I actually did not have sex before marriage. Now, I'm like y'all already know, I keep it real and practical, so where my faith lies. So I'm not making excuses for that. On the very practical side of things, for us, we did it because, we love God. We do our best to try to obey what he says. However, if I'm going to be very real with you and practical, we've even said that, God, it might have opened up some things if we did have sex beforehand. Because one thing we did find after we got married is that our language in bed is vastly different. It is vastly different. Now, the only thing is not like that.
Did not take the test drive. You're supposed to always take the test drive.
Well, not necessarily, because at the end of the day, you still have the rest of your life. God forbid you live, God forbid. I mean, God allow you to live a long life. You have the rest of your life to figure it out, and we've been figuring it out. But it was definitely rough for sure, because just as a human, one of the reasons about having, and actually a big part of the problem that we found of having sex before marriage is that I now have preconceived notions and ideals and even practices that I thought she should have already been hit to a bit on, and then vice versa. So we were going in unfair, even though we don't not consciously doing it. I'm going in comparing her to my past experiences, she comparing me to my past experiences. And that's really what made our illiteracy, if you will, so pronounced.
Mm-hmm.
But however, if we didn't have those past experiences, we wouldn't have had anything to compare them to. And we both would have been starting from square one. So that was that. And then if you want to get, and we're not going to get really deep on it, but when you get on the metaphysical level, when you understand energies and the transference of energies and things like that, that's a very real thing when you're having sex, because you really are transferring energies and your spirits are aligned like that. And when you're done, it's not like you're like, all right, I'm done, let me get my energy back. No, you leave some of that with that person. And they left theirs with yours. And guess what happens though? That energy also now goes to your next person.
This is true.
And stuff like that. So those are all things to consider as well. And they're very real things.
I'm so glad you, can I insert one thing?
Absolutely.
Because that's one of the reasons, I mean, we've got varying viewpoints on it, but I actually believe that that's a good thing. I'm not saying don't protect your energy. You definitely should watch who you impart and share your energy and take
you sleep with a witch, you screwed.
However, one ideal that we do share, and I mean, it's in the book too, is that it's at some point, everything will return to source. it's the whole thing. Even if you're Christian, you die, you want to go home to be with the Lord, or you want to, Jesus sits on the right hand and then you'll worship God every day, all day. Like that is returning to source. And I've always looked at sex and that imparting of energy and that spread of energy as building the collective consciousness in a sense. If energy starts to get shared faster, we grow faster. My hippie friends, and most people, if you know a hippie, they tend, even though they chief a lot, the wokeness level is, they say some things, you're like, yo, that is crazy. And then like 5 years later, you're like, yo, what he was saying made sense, even though they said it in a trippy state. But I think that comes from the fact that they've been sharing that energy, and that energy pushes evolution. So I think I personally, on top of just believing that it should be had in abundance, feel that the sharing of energy is important to the evolution of the human species. That's
right. Yeah, and that's it. And then the last thing that a lot of people subscribe to, for those who do believe that you shouldn't, is it's the one last personal bastion of something that no one else can or should ever have without your permission per se. And it's the one last level of actually literally being in me and part of me, right? And when you look at it like that, you're kind of like, okay, do I really just want the whole neighborhood being in me and part of me, or just this one person who I decided to spend the rest of my life with, who I'm going to give my all to? This is how I can give my all to them, and this is the final, the final phase of that. So it, again, it's still going to come down to your beliefs and stuff like that. So again, I'm right as far as what I believe in, and then Johnny's right as far as what he believes in. So you then have to just take those viewpoints and see which one lines up with you, Jesus. So just use your own thoughts. Don't let anyone, ever, Jesus, influence you. You know what I mean? Because you have the right to make up your own mind, Jesus. So just, because I stand on what Johnny says, Jesus, all the time. So, I mean, I would totally, Jesus, respect Johnny for his thoughts. Oh, man. I love this podcast. All right. Moving on. This is a fun one. Thank you for I want to say I should say his name just because he's the only dude. You should just honor him right now. Can we honor him? Because he didn't say don't. So I want to give a shout out to Jaron Tui. That's JaronTouhey. Go follow him, please, as the only dude who participated in this. And I love Jaron's question. He says, choosing between ASCAP, CSAC, and BMI. What are the differences, the pros, and the cons? You want to start with me?
Size would be the number one thing that I can think of. Is the main difference. Is other than that, they're all PROs, right? So I mean,
Johnny, what is a PRO?
Performing rights organization.
What is that exactly? What is it that they do?
Let's break that down. Performing rights organizations, they track and collect the royalty payments for your intellectual property being performed, whether it be in a venue,
in the public,
basketball arena, in movies, radio, and then you get your check from them.
Boom, there it is. Yeah. And so a couple of key differences between them would be, for example, ASCAP, for example. ASCAP is actually owned by its membership. And for
That's
some
right.
people, yeah, for some people that's important.
Mm-hmm.
For some people, not so much. BMI is private. CSAC is super private. Why do I say that? Because BMI and CSAC, with BMI, you actually have to have a placement. You have to have something in the marketplace already in order to be able to join. It's the same with CSAC. However, the only part that makes CSAC even super private is because you actually have to be invited to be a part of CSAC. So
Secret society type stuff. Yeah.
secret society type stuff. Matter of fact, I think that's part of what it's. But no, I'm just kidding. Let me start any rumors. So those are the main difference between the three. So really, it's going to be a personal preference, honestly. But if you don't have any songs out there in the marketplace, then you really kind of only have one choice where ASCAP is concerned, and that's joining up as an associate member. But if you do have songs in the marketplace, then just kind of, call, get a feel of all three, talk to them and maybe visit an office if you can, and just see if you feel like the biggest thing is going to be, do you feel like they'll pay attention to you? That's probably going to be the biggest thing that helps you make a decision. So there is actually a real life story where, so there was a producer, or is a producer named Shakespeare, and his writing partner was Candy Burris, and you may be familiar with her from Escape and like her reality shows and stuff. So they were a songwriting producing duo. And so there's a story, well, it's not so much a story because I was part of the situation, like I saw it firsthand, where checks came in and let's see, Shakespeare was with BMI and Candy was with ASCAP. Shakespeare got his check first, and they did songs like No Scrubs on Destiny, on TLC, Bills, 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 Destiny's Child, stuff like that. So Shakespeare got his check first. Candy's check was bigger. Shakespeare didn't like that. So Shakespeare jumped ship. Or at least I know he tried to. And I want to say they worked some things out and gave him some money or something to stay.
So he get his money faster and bigger.
Yeah, right. It was something like that. And that part I don't want to speak to because I forgot the details. So much time has passed. But that used to be the thing where they used to say, BMI. Man, honestly, I might have it backwards. Anyway, they used to say that one of them paid you faster and the other one, the check was bigger. That's what that used to be the little argument. But that's changed so much now, where that's just a story at this point. That it really kind of isn't even relevant nowadays. So again, happy PRO hunting. Just kind of do your research, ask around like you're doing, but ask people who are a part of each organization, if you will. Just say, what made you choose them? Don't just say, how do you like it? Ask them, like, why did you choose them as opposed to the other ones? That's probably a better question to ask to get a more directive type of feedback and opinion.
Right on.
Word.
Cool, man. I think we did good work here today.
This was excellent. We want to thank everyone for submitting your comments and your questions. We love this interactive stuff. It definitely puts more depth, and it makes these podcasts a lot more relative and prevalent, if you will, to you. So keep them coming, man. Keep them coming. We don't have to always have to dedicate an episode to it. Just send us comments. And what I would love to do is be able to address a comment per episode.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of it, I would love to be able to do that. So you guys are encouraged to DM us, email us at lifeonpodcast@gmail. Pretty soon we're going to have a lifeonpodcast.com. Working on that. But right now it's lifeonpodcast@gmail. Or you can always send us a DM at lifeonpodcast over there on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to send a message to on Twitter, you can, lifeonpodcast_ on Twitter. But, most people are on Instagram and Gmail. Me personally, as always, you can always hit me up at Stone 007, Stone letter O 7. And then you can hit old Santa Claus over here.
It hasn't turned white yet. It's going to do that later on. Just Johnny Vaughn, JUSTJONYVAN on the Instagrams.
Yeah, man. So we appreciate you guys. Thank you we're at 2,000 downloads.
Yeah.
We would love to hit that 2,000 subscribers. So, help us out with that. We appreciate it. But we are actually now on Pandora.
Yes.
That goes live in about a week.
Mm-hmm.
So we're excited. We're definitely growing slowly, but absolutely surely. So we appreciate you guys, and we're going to holler at y'all next week.
Yeah.
Peace.